broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right there. So with that, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Morning. Supervisor Clavin.
Here.
Councilman Blakeman. Here. Councilman Carini.
Here.
Councilman D'Esposito. I'm here. Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Here. Councilman Muscarella.
I'm here.
I am now going to ask that Senior Councilwoman Gooseby lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, good morning, everyone. And because of the governor's executive orders and the COVID pandemic, today's public hearing will allow for both in-person participation and telephonic participation using the GoToWebinar. The instructions for participating using the GoToWebinar and all relevant documents are on the town's website. When the clerk calls for the first public hearing, those in here in Town Hall will be heard first. They will have a chance to speak. Then participants in the GoToWebinar will have their chance to speak. All participants in the GoToWebinar must pay attention to the cases called by our town clerk. When the public hearings are called of which you wish to speak, you must click the Raise Your Hand button on the GoToWebinar. If you do not click the Raise Your Hand button, you will not be called. All participants on the GoToWebinar will be muted until the moderator calls your name to speak. You must pay attention for your name and begin speaking when your name is called, or the moderator will have to go on to the next participant. The moderator will not recall anyone's name, so please pay attention for your name. If you are participating in the GoToWebinar and watching on the live stream, then you must mute the live stream when it is your turn to speak, or you will not be understood. Every participant will be given one chance to speak up to 3 minutes. When you are done speaking or when your time is up, the moderator will again mute you on the GoToWebinar. At the end of the public hearings portion of the meeting, the GoToWebinar will be turned off, and I encourage all those who are using the GoToWebinar to continue listening and watching the meeting on the town's live stream. Please also note that anyone using profanity or straying off topic will be muted. Madam Clerk, please call the first public hearing.
We have the petition of the Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove a one-story masonry commercial building, one-story metal building attached to masonry building, and a two-story wood frame structure, and to remove all litter and debris from the property located in Uniondale.
Okay, first, does any board member wish to be heard on this item? Okay. 2, now we're going to see if there's anyone here at Town Hall that wishes to be heard on this. And Dominic, you're telling me there's no one here at Town Hall who wants to be heard on this, is that right? Correct. All right. And now we are going to the GoToWebinar portion of the meeting, that if you wish to be heard on this item, we respectfully ask you to please raise your hand. Mr. Moderator.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hands on this public hearing.
Outstanding job as always. Since there are no more speakers, may I please have a motion?
I move that we close the public hearing and go ahead and allow this to happen.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the next public hearing?
We have a proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Elmont and Oceanside.
First, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item? Okay. 2, is there anyone here at Town Hall that wishes to be heard on this item? Okay. 3, Mr. Moderator, now's the chance for people to raise their hand in the GoToWebinar portion. Is there anyone raising their hand?
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay. Since I don't have any more speakers, may I please have a motion? Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the item be adopted.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the next public hearing?
We have a proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Belmore, Elmont, North Belmore, Oceanside, and Roosevelt.
Okay. First, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item? Next, let me see if there's anyone here at Town Hall that wishes to be heard on this item. Okay, and now, Mr. Moderator, we will check the GoToWebinar portion of the program to see if anybody wants to be heard. We ask them to please raise their hand.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, since there are no more speakers, may I please have a motion?
I make a motion that the public hearing be closed and adopt the item.
Second the motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please call the next item?
We have the proposed local law regarding arterial stops in East Meadow and Woodmere.
Okay, first, is any member of the board wish to be heard on this item? Okay, secondly, are there anyone checking in at Town Hall that wishes to be heard on this item? Okay, and now we will go to the go-to webinar portion of the meeting. I'm going to ask you to please raise your hand online, and Mr. Moderator.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, great. Since there are no more speakers, may I please have a motion?
I make a motion that we close the hearing and the item be adopted.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding parking for firemen only in Oceanside.
Okay, first, is any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Okay, secondly, is there anyone from the public in building today wish to be heard on this? Okay, now we will check the go-to webinar portion of the program and see if anybody's raising their hand and wants to be heard on this. Mr. Moderator.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, since there are no more speakers, may I please have a motion?
Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the proposed local law be adopted.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding gross weight restrictions in Uniondale.
Okay, first, is any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Okay. Second, is there any member of the public here in-house that wish to be heard on this? Great. If you can go on back to the podium there and just give your name and address for the record, that'd be awesome.
Pearl Jacobs, Uniondale. I just need clarification regarding that proposal.
Is that mic on? Just, guys, crank up the volume a little bit on that. Okay. I just couldn't hear. Let's try it again.
Okay, I would like clarification regarding that proposal, please.
Okay. Commish? Identify yourself.
Tom Reed, representing Traffic Control Division. These locations for Uniondale are for Park Avenue. For both ends of the roadway, we're restricting the truck traffic from utilizing this roadway from both ends.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll remind everybody who's speaking here today, if you, one of our coworkers is going to wipe down the mic when you're done speaking, so if everybody just give it a chance there. Does anybody else here today wish to be heard on this item? Okay, if not, then I will now go to the moderator and ask if there is anyone who wants to raise their hand and speak on the online portion of the program. Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, great. May I please have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and it be adopted.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Aye. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed handicap parking on public streets in East Atlantic Beach, Elmont, Hewlett, Inwood, Oceanside, Roosevelt, Uniondale, and Valley Stream.
Okay, first, is there any member of the board that wishes to be heard on this? Okay, secondly, any members of the public that wish to be heard on this? Okay, now we will check the go-to webinar and see if anybody raises their hand and wishes to be heard on this. Mr. Moderator.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, since there are no more speakers, may I please have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the item adopted.
I second the motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed amendment of Section 259 of 26 of the Building Code Ordinance of the Town of Hempstead in relation to the regulation of signs in the Town of Hempstead.
Okay, first, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Okay, secondly, any members of the public here today wish to be heard on this? Okay, now we will go to the go-to webinar portion of the program and see if anybody raises their hand. Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, may I please have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the proposed amendment be adopted.
Second?
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have the application of Meadows at East Meadow LLC for rezoning from Residence B to CA Residence District to be improved with a 20-unit age-restricted senior rental over 55 years of age and older apartment complex situated in East Meadow.
Okay, I know we have the attorney as well as an engineering firm, and again, I would just like to remind everybody, when you're done speaking, just have to give it a moment. Our co-worker is going to wipe it down. If you could please give your name and address for the record.
Good morning. My name is Wayne Muller, and I'm with the firm of Robinson and Muller Engineering.
Good morning.
Mr. Brown, the project attorney, he's just out in the foyer signing in. Could we just have a moment for him to, would that be acceptable?
Absolutely.
I think he's on his way.
All right, good morning, Supervisor members, Christian Brown, McLaughlin and Stern, 1122 Franklin Avenue, Garden City for the applicant. Sorry, our team is just coming into the building right now. We're here on a rezoning application, as you know, seeking to rezone the subject property from the Residence B district to the CA district with the goal of constructing 22-bedroom apartments on the site. This site is located along Newbridge Road in East Meadow. It's just over an acre. It's 50,153 square feet. It's vacant land. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. It formerly functioned as part of the St. Raphael's Parish campus. St. Raphael's is located just to the south. It was sold by the parish a number of years ago, and it sat vacant for, I would say, the better part of a decade. It's just a large asphalt parcel right now. And so this application would allow it to be developed in a reasonable way that we think will be productive for the East Meadow community and for the town of Hempstead. So as I mentioned, it has frontage along Newbridge Road. It also has frontage along both side streets to the north and south. That's Pendroy and Hampton Streets. As I mentioned, the parish is located just to the south, and the area around it is characterized predominantly by Residence B single-family homes, but there are also businesses within the 200-foot radius and within walking distance from the site, including a 7-Eleven convenience store and some restaurants and other retail and shopping type stores located to the north. That would be just a few minutes walk from this site, so residents would be able to walk within 10 minutes or so to stores and restaurants in the North Belmore, East Meadow area. As I mentioned, the parcel is presently zoned Residence B, and the purpose of this application is to rezone the parcel to the CA district for the construction of 22-bedroom rental apartment units. I should mention that although we're not seeking a Golden Age zoning designation, as a condition of the rezoning, the applicant would accept a restriction on the residency to residents 55 years of age and older. So the goal here is to rent the apartments to people obviously over age 55, people who are looking to downsize from their houses but stay in the local community, perhaps people who travel to Florida for part of the year, allowing them to have an affordable and nice place to stay. The target group for our tenants would be in the East Meadow community primarily, and we would hope to rent all or most of the units to local people, again, who are looking to downsize from their homes but stay in the area. So this application is made on that representation and condition that there would be a restriction on the property limiting the tenants to persons 55 years age and older. As I mentioned, all the units proposed are two-bedroom units. They would be spread out over two small, relatively small, buildings on the site. The first building would be located on the northeast corner. That building would have 8 units, and the second building would be located on the southeast corner of the property, and that building would have 12 units. Both of the buildings are 2 stories, and both would entirely comply with all of the zoning regulations governing the CA district. The balance of the parcel outside of those 2 buildings would be devoted to parking and a significant landscape buffer. If you look at your site plan, you'll see that there is a buffer throughout the property. It's quite wide. It's about 25 feet along the New Bridge Road frontage. So the main frontage of the property would be screened to a 25-foot distance with greenery, plantings, etc., and then the buildings would be set back behind that buffer. That buffer would also extend onto parts of the side streets as well, and would also be about 25 feet wide. And I should mention that if the board does elect to rezone the area, this application, because it concerns property that's over an acre, would also be subject to site plan review. So this board and the building department and other agencies of the town will have a chance to look at all of the details of the proposed site, including landscaping, lighting, drainage, access. All of the customary site plan issues would be brought back before you, and you would have the opportunity to review it in detail at that time and impose appropriate conditions. But I do want to stress that it does contain significant green space. The plan also, as I mentioned, has a parking lot. The parking lot is adequate to hold all of the cars that would be required under the CA code. We have 51 parking spots where 47 are required. So as I mentioned, the proposal does meet all of the CA requirements, including parking, and no variances would be required to build this development should you elect to rezone the property. I would also like to point out that on the site plan, it calls for the installation of a guardrail in the rear of the parking lot, where the parking lot would meet the residential homes. If you look, it's an L shape in the back there, and in the narrowest part where the property abuts residential homes, we're calling for a guardrail. The guardrail would be screened with greenery, so it wouldn't be particularly visible, but it's an extra safety measure that some of the homeowners had requested, just to ensure that, to reduce the risk of any car perhaps going through a fence or, intruding on their property. So that was put in at the request of the abutting neighbors, and that was the product of one of the 3 community meetings that were held with respect to this application, and we were able to work collaboratively with the neighbors to develop the site plan, and I think most are satisfied with it and agree that it is an appropriate use for this vacant parcel. The Council of East Meadow Community Organizations, by letter dated June 6th, 2021, has endorsed the project. The North Belmore Fire Department, which has jurisdiction over the site, has also reviewed the plans and has found them to be appropriate and safe from a fire safety perspective, and I will hand in those letters to the clerk's office for the record, so that you can see that both the fire department has looked at the plans, and as has the Council of East Meadow Community Organizations, and they have both voiced their respective support. As I mentioned, the units would be rentals. The target rents are about $2,800 to $3,200 per month, depending on the location. The developer, which is goes under the name the Meadows Organization. You've probably seen some of their sites throughout the town. This would be conveniently called the Meadows at East Meadow, but they have other Meadows projects. They've done dozens of developments over the years, all over Long Island, including in the town of Hempstead. There are Meadows developments in Valley Stream, West Hempstead, Rockville Center, for example. And the developer has been in business going back to the 1950s. started building in the post-war boom and has continued down through the years. This is not a fly-by-night organization. They run these properties very well. You can visit any of their sites. I'd be happy to provide any members with specific addresses if you'd like to see their sites. They have a rigorous application process for tenants that involves credit checks and financial information to make sure that the tenants will be able to support the rents. This is not the type of operation that just is looking to rent into to create a transient type of atmosphere, if you will. This is a development that's intended to be for people who wish to stay over the long term and who are anchored in the community and are looking for an apartment-style living as opposed to maintaining the burden of a single-family house. As I mentioned again, it's only 20 apartments, but the target audience, the target market would be East Meadow seniors, people in the community who wish to stay in the community but downsize from their present homes. Overall, I would just note that I think it's a modest-sized development at only 20 units. It takes a vacant and decaying lot that has been an eyesore on New Bridge Road for many years, puts it to a very nice productive use that is not going to substantially change the general character of East Meadow, but will give people some additional options for housing. It'll fit in nicely with the New Bridge Road corridor because, as I mentioned, there are single-family homes, but there's also commercial development within walking distance, so it lends itself to that sort of walkable downtown type of feel. I know the board is considering a number of these types of applications through the town. Many are quite significant in size. I commend you for considering them. Compared to those applications, this is quite small, a tiny fraction of what might be built in other places, and so I don't think there's as much a concern about, the tremendous impact of a significant number of units or a significant influx of people. There won't be any school-age children here because it's all 55 and over residents. And of course, the town, the county, the school district will all benefit by a substantial increase in the assessed valuation, and that will redound to the benefit of the local municipalities and the local community. So with that overview, we do have a few other witnesses today. I'd like to have Mr. Bonacasa come up from H2M. They're the architects on the project, just show you a few more details, give you a look at the renderings, and then Mr. Barry Nelson will testify briefly about real estate valuation issues, and Mr. Muller will testify regarding traffic and parking and go over briefly his traffic and parking study for your information.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Just like I said, just remind your team, just give it a second between speakers each time.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm going to ask Mr. Bonacasa to come up.
Morning. Name and address for the record, please.
Michael Bonacasa, 538 Broad Hollow Road, Melville, New York.
All right.
Good morning, members of the board. I'm Mike Bonacasa, H2M Architects and Engineers. We're going to be the architects and engineers for the project, the Meadows at East Meadow. Just to give you a quick overview of what they are, all the units, all 20 units are 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units. The first floor units will have a basement component. The building design is in a modern farmhouse design. There'll be composite siding, asphalt roof shingles, some accents of standing seam metal roof. And that's really the high points of the project. I really want to repeat what Chris already said. So,
okay,
if any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Well, since you have that rendering, here's my question for you. How many units are in that picture right there, just so I get a visual?
This is the 8-unit building.
Okay, and then you actually said they have a basement too?
They have basements just for storage.
Just for storage, okay.
Yeah. If you'd like, I can show you the rendering of the 12-unit building.
No, I was just trying to visualize it, so. Any member of the board have any questions right now?
You have no 3-story buildings anywhere.
No, these are all 2 stories.
It's 2 stories.
They're all less than 30 feet. They'll all be fully compliant with the CA zone with no variances required. This is the 12-unit building.
Listen, I don't see a flagpole. Where's the flagpole?
It's not in the rendering, it's just outside the rendering.
You will have one.
I believe we will have one.
Don't believe, have one.
We will have one.
Thank you. And you met with Semco.
Yes, we have.
Semco, and they signed off, yes, good, on June 6th?
Yes, they have.
And
We met with the community, we met with Semco, and to my knowledge, they have signed off on the project.
We do have a letter from them? Okay, thank you. That's very, very important. Excellent. Now, and you said the fire department. I see we have the fire department letter also. That's good. Those are two major questions we get asked all the time. And I'm glad you brought up a guy with traffic study, because that was going to be the next question. Now, the entrances are on the side streets, not on Newbridge, correct?
That's correct. We submitted a preliminary plan to the county where we were told, I'm sorry, to the state, DOT, and we were told they wouldn't accept an opening on Newbridge Road because of the South Street Pendroy is a controlled intersection. So anywhere on that site, they felt it was too close to the controlled intersection, so they wanted no ingress or egress on Newbridge Road.
I like that idea. That's one problem I thought would come up, but you already addressed it, so that's terrific. Let's see.
Does someone have some very soothing music playing right now? We could ask them just to turn that down. Thanks.
Yeah, is that somebody's phone, or does somebody have a radio on?
That's a long ring.
All right, so the residents are all on board because you met with Semco and the regular residents themselves. Has anybody come up to you and said anything? I know there's going to be one or two, of course, but...
We had one or two residents raise some concerns. We installed, as Chris said, we were going to install a guardrail behind two of the residential properties where there's a narrow buffer. The other two areas have a 10-foot buffer that will have growth of trees there that will buffer the property and protect it from, if any cars, they're not going to get close to the fence.
St. Raphael's gave you their blessing?
I'm sorry?
St. Raphael's gave you their blessing?
Yes, they sold us the property.
They sold you the property, so you might as well make sure that what's going on there is correct.
Yeah, in addition to that, there was some concern about the Northern Hampton Street access. We made that an ingress only, so that all traffic outside the site will be directed to the controlled intersection. But I don't want to, we have a traffic engineer here who will discuss that.
So there'll be no ownership, condominiums, or anything like that? It's just basic rentals?
This is rentals, yes.
Excellent. Let's see, what else? 55 or older. What if they have young children? That they're going to be going to the schools, or they can't have young children going when they live?
Do we have I don't know.
It says 55 and older.
It's 55 and older. Normally, the statistics show that they wouldn't have school-age children.
Okay, good. Just the next question was, what's the school district's impact? All right, so you're addressing everything quite well in your presentation. Let me see what else I have here. I'm finished. I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Bonacasa, the guardrails were at the request of the neighbors, and that's why you put them in?
That's correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, who do you have up next? Okay.
Good morning. It's Barry Nelson, 220 Pettit Avenue, Belmore, New York, 11710. If the board doesn't mind, I'll hand in some exhibits, actually photographs of the subject property and the surrounding area, and I do have some small aerial views for the subject property and the surrounding area. Thank you. Council's gone over the application substantially. The property has been used in the past for a parking field for St. Raphael's Church and school to the south. But as far as going back to probably in the last 10 plus years, that parcel has not been used. It is just asphalt paved and now under application for the proposed use. Newbridge Road, the main arterial road, north and south. North Jerusalem Road to the south. Hempstead Turnpike within a mile and a half to the north. is the secondary roads east and west. The uses in the area are fine one-family, single-family, Cape Cods, high ranches, split levels, and there is some new construction in the area, and that new construction would be either a knockdown or possibly a subdivision of a lot in the area, and they would be of colonial-style homes. Values of single-family homes range anywhere from a low, if you can find them, of $475 up to $850,000+. The other uses in the area would include the religious institution, the church, to the south, and they do have access to the west off of Headroy Street. The south of the church would be Meadow Lanes Cooperatives. It's a similar development, but it is larger in nature, and it is the ownership would be co-ops, but their simplex is similar to what the applicant is proposing in this application for the design. In the subject block to the west, on the east side of East Meadow Avenue, is a new development going up, and that would be Parkview townhouses, similar simplexes. They're a little bit larger and more substantial in nature, and that's being developed by Beechwood. Those are 55 and over and for sale, and those units are being sold in excess of starting at $615,000 and up, with substantial responsibility for taxes and homeowners association fees. This application provides an opportunity for, and it's a small development of 20 units, would probably be most of the units occupied by former residences from the East Meadow, Town of Hempstead area, and they would occupy them with a monthly rental, as council mentioned, anywhere from $2,800 to about $3,300 for a monthly rental fee. It's 55 and older, so there would be no burden to the school district, and it's going to generate substantial real estate taxes in excess of $250,000 to $275,000, and that would include school and general, and approximately 68% of the total taxes are allocated to the school and the rest is general. In the alternative, a development of single-family homes would tend to burden the school district. They would be larger colonials, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, and they would have school-aged children, and that would be an increase of substantial, of 6 homes would probably have about 9 students. The average, for the average per student in the school district is about $29,000. I don't believe the taxes would be offset with, or the number of students would be beneficial for the development for the schools. I looked at other smaller developments, and we can go back to the 90s, to the 2000s, and some of the developments over the years in the North Merrick, North Belmore would include Victorian homes, and they were 62 and older, no school-aged children. They were introduced into residential communities similar to the subject property. One would be on the North Jerusalem Avenue, North Merrick. Another one would be on Belmore Avenue, North Belmore. Similar type developments, there were co-op ownerships, and they were introduced in the middle of a residential block on both of those on main arterial roads without any impact to the adjacent residences and the surrounding community. Other ones that would include on Carmen Avenue, north of Hempstead Turnpike, Parkview Homes on the easterly side, Carmen Homes on the westerly side. There were sales back in the 2010-12 area, and they sold out well. Right now, the two developments in East Meadow under construction would be inclusive of the former religious institution on the east side of Merrick Avenue, just south of Hempstead Turnpike, a Beechwood development. I believe it's about 103 units for sale. Very successful, but they're in the excess of $600,000 to $675,000 with real estate taxes of approximately $11,000 per unit, plus homeowners' fees. The other one I mentioned would be in the subject block on the east side of East Meadow Avenue, and it's probably in one of my aerial views. Again, it's a substantial, approximately 48 homes, but substantial in burden for a senior to come in and occupy. They would have to sell their home and take all of their money and just about invest in a smaller, downsized simplex unit. So in my opinion, what's being proposed in this application is a reasonable redevelopment of a property that up until recently was off the tax rolls. It was a church-owned property, now will be put back. It's privately owned and will be well managed. As I mentioned, I looked at the other developments that have been already existing and that's under construction, and they do not have negative impact on the character of the neighborhood, property values, or even to the adjacent homes, whether they're residential, single family, or the commercial developments along the main arterial road. As Council mentioned, it is walking distance to some local shopping. There's a Walgreens within 2 blocks to the south, 2 or 3 blocks to the south. So there's everyday conveniences available, including major shopping on Hempstead Turnpike and Newbridge Road, which would include a Walmart at that location. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I have just a few questions. If I
Yes, sir.
You have like a book of restrictions that they're going to have when they walk in, so they know what they can do or can't do. Things like they can't have a golf cart to drive around the place. They can't have,
correct.
They can't have a fire pit in back of their place. They can't.
Against fire marshal regulations, yes.
Noise. So you have a thing.
Well, it'll be managed by a management company, and I'm sure all of those issues would be addressed in a bylaws and when they sign a lease agreement.
Okay, that's good. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Board members, any other questions? Okay. Mr. Brown, anybody else to present for public comment? Okay. Morning, name and address for the record, please.
My name is Wayne Muller. I'm with the firm of Robinson and Muller Engineering. Our offices are at 50 Elm Street, Huntington, New York. For the record, I'd like to submit copies of a traffic analysis prepared by my firm dated June 15, 2021. And just briefly describe the contents therein. I believe a lot of what I was going to say was covered by Mr. Brown, Mr. Bonacasa, and Mr. Nelson. What's before the board today, as indicated in my study, is a 20-unit age-restricted apartment complex. As indicated on the plans prepared by H2M, access will be provided via 2 locations. The northerly location will be on Hampton Street, and that will be an ingress only. The main access to the property will be on Pendroy Street, and that will be configured to allow for entering and exiting traffic. Currently, there is a traffic signal that controls the intersection of Newbridge Road and Pendroy Street, so therefore it made sense to locate the main driveway to the facility on that roadway. As Mr. Bonacasa indicated early on in this process, as part of a request from the surrounding property owners, a request was made to the New York State Department of Transportation in order to obtain access to Newbridge Road directly from this parcel. However, that request was denied. The DOT, in their infinite wisdom, indicated that it would be more beneficial to have the traffic enter and exit from Pendroy Street via the controlled intersection rather than creating a separate intersection on Newbridge Road, which could then potentially introduce various different conflict points. The analysis which I submitted to the board was prepared in accordance with recognized standards and procedures. The first component that's displayed in my report is the computation of the required parking for this development. As indicated on the plans prepared by H2M, a total of 47 parking spaces are required for this subject development, and as indicated on the plans, 51 parking spaces are provided. This project will not seek a variance in the off-street parking requirements, and in fact, it provides more than what the code requires, so the project will be overparked. As such, we anticipate that all of the parking associated with this development will be fully contained on site. As indicated in my report, and as alluded to by Mr. Nelson, the subject property could be developed in accordance with the existing zoning for a total of 6 single-family homes. As indicated in my report, there will be an increase in traffic when comparing the traffic that would be generated by the age-restricted apartments to what could be developed as the 6 single-family home development. However, as indicated in my report, upon preparing a rigorous modeling of the area, we found that the traffic generated by the subject development will not create any undue traffic congestion or hazard, and that there would be an imperceptible impact to the operation of the study area upon the introduction of the traffic generated by this development. So therefore, it is my professional opinion that the granting of the change of zone to allow the construction depicted on the plans prepared by H2M will not have any significant impact to traffic conditions within the area, and that the project will not seek relief from the zoning ordinance for parking, and the parking for the property will be fully contained on site. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions to the board?
Just a quick question. The entrance is far enough away from New Bridge Road where it won't cause backup onto New Bridge, people trying to pull in and waiting for a parking spot or anything like that?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, it's set as far back to the west on Pendroy Street as we could put it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, any other speakers for you?
No, Supervisor. That concludes our presentation. Thank you for your attention. I just close by saying we hope you agree it's a appropriate site for rezoning. It's a modest project, no school-age children, no traffic impact, plenty of screening, and it's a difficult site in some ways because of its shape and because of New Bridge Road, which has been mentioned. The state will not allow curb cuts, so it becomes very difficult to put single-family homes on it. Even though in theory it could support 6, actually the layout would become virtually impossible to do anything like that, particularly because you really can't build anything that fronts on New Bridge Road. So this is a good alternative. It's a modest project, but it will still bring great benefit to the community. So we hope you will approve the rezoning.
Okay, we got a couple of residents checked in, so if you could stick around, you and the team. We'll start off with Scott Roche. Mr. Roche, just give a minute there for him to wipe it down, and I was going to ask you to please give your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Scott Thomas Roche, Esquire, 611 Newbridge Road, East Meadow, New York, 11554. Good morning.
Good morning.
We have a few, my property abuts the property that in question, as well as my office is across the street. So I'm a very interested party in this. Concerned about, one, sanitation and pest control. Would it be abutting my property, or would it be up near New Bridge Road? That's a major concern. Number 2 is the traffic, whatever he did, the study, doesn't take into consideration the new units of 40 to 100 units that were being put on East Meadow Avenue. Now, East Meadow Avenue and New Bridge Road both have 2 lanes. It's 1 lane going each way. There's a turning lane on New Bridge Road, however. The traffic right now, and I can tell you from personal use, is that the traffic on North Jerusalem Road and New Bridge Road and New Bridge Avenue, or East Meadow Avenue as it's called now, is very, very congested. In fact, on North Chisholm Road, trying to get to Newbridge Road, coming from North Chisholm, it's almost impossible to do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or not. The traffic study does not take in consideration the traffic that's going to be there prior to, after the building. Also, we're concerned about the noise and the ingress egress on Penrose Street. I happen to live on Penrose Street, and my property directly abuts this. I'd like to see if the traffic study can be shown to me. I'd appreciate it. And if they can, and also with the sanitation, with the taking and removal of garbage, I'd like it to be put on Newbridge Road if it's at all possible, because otherwise it's going to be a problem for pest control and next to me, as well as the neighbors. Additionally, when St. Raphael's was torn down, the initial project, there was a major rodent problem. I believe the same thing is going to be happening with this. I want to know how it's going to be alleviated by petitioners.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. Just so I know, you said you have a residential property that abuts it? What street are you on?
Penrose Street.
Penrose, okay. And then you own the commercial.
My office is catty corner to that.
On the other side of the road. So, and you own that commercial building too?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Why don't we let Mr. Brown come up and see if they can answer some questions? If you could just hang out for a little bit, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you again. Just briefly, the trash receptacle is located on the Newbridge Road side. It's enclosed. It's within the landscape buffer area. It's or on the border of the landscape buffer area, I should say. So it's on the complete opposite side of the property from the neighbor's rear property line, and it is shown on the site plan. The area along the rear line there's a 10-foot landscape buffer called out there, and there will also be a 6-foot PVC fence installed along there. So there'll be a nice buffer between the neighbor's property line and the subject property. And I would just noting for traffic, Mr. Muller's report does take into account the additional cars that would be generated from a development such as this, as well as the cars that would be generated from single-family homes. And I'm happy to share the report with anybody. The board has it. But the increase is, as he called it, imperceptible. It's just not going to have any kind of a significant impact on the existing traffic volume because, again, it is such a modest development. It's only 20 units. So with those two remarks, I will rest unless there's other questions.
What I would just ask is, or perhaps you could take council's card and maybe do a follow-up, just to give him the copy of the study. Also, alleviate his concerns about the reciprocal, and also maybe just talk about if there is or is not any of the concerns, rightfully so, he brings up of pre-existing or conditions that happened when they did the knockdown on him.
Sure.
And I would appreciate that. So maybe after the meeting, you could exchange cards and follow up with a nice meeting, and then maybe throw us an email to let us know it took place. That would be awesome.
Not a problem, and we'll email you copies of the report and any other documents you'd like.
Can I ask you to do this?
Uh-oh. Yeah, absolutely.
The site plan addresses his questions. If you could take him into that back room where you see the windows right there?
Yes.
If you could take him back there, show him the site plan where the disposal dumpsters is subject to be.
Yes.
And show him the buffer and the setback of it. I think that'll eliminate his problems as I saw them, because I thought they were problems until I saw the site plan. So if you bring him into the back room, we won't have to reserve decision. We might be able to make a decision today. So if you could...
Sure. We'd be happy to do that.
If you'd step into the back room with
I just
one of the fellas from the...
I have one other question. There's a house there that has solar panels on it. I don't think that, according to the plans, it obstructs anything on that, but just make note that, make sure there's no, hurtful intention on the solar paneling situation.
I understand.
All right, so go ahead in the back. Thank you. And do it right away so we can...
Okay. All right. I do have another speaker that I have a slip on. Barry Allison?
No,
That was part. That was you? That was yours? Okay. I don't have any other speaker slips in-house here. Right now, we can go to the go-to webinar portion of the program. Mr. Moderator, has anyone raised their hand?
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay. All right, if I have any other questions, may I have a motion?
All right, I make a motion that we close the hearing, and on the application to be approved, we'd like to reserve decision until we find out if everything's copacetic. Hopefully, we can come back to it before the meeting's over. Can we do that?
Okay, so you want to reserve decision on, is that correct? Okay, we're going to
Second the motion to reserve decision.
okay. Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Mr. Brown, I appreciate the presentation.
Thank
If
you very
could follow
much.
with the council, and then maybe follow up with an email or communication to us to let us know.
To the extent we need, I'll be in touch through Mr. Nasella's office.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have the application of Bola EM Realty LLC to modify and amend certain declaration of covenants and restrictions dated August 2nd, 2019, situated in Seaford.
Okay. Good. Got a number of slips on this. We'll start with the applicant.
Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, fellow board members. For the applicant, David Altman, Brown, Altman, and DeLeo, 538 Broad Hollow Road, Suite 301W, Melville, New York, for the applicant. Appreciate your time today, and it's nice to see a room full of people again. That's a really nice sign. So, the proposal before the board today concerns a site that this board recently approved a couple of years ago, owned and operated by Bola. As the board may be aware from its inspections of the site pre-hearing, there is also a Tim Hortons coffee shop that operates within the Bola as well. And what Bola seeks to do is to make a very modest addition on the south side of the building. If you look at the colorized site plan, which is now up on the screen, you'll see the building on the southern portion of the site, and on the south side of the building, what looks like a small little yellow triangle, or rectangle rather. That's about a 45-foot addition that's proposed for the building, where the drive-through window would be located. Interestingly enough, many of the improvements necessary to operate a drive-through are already in place, including the pavings and drive-through lanes, all which do need to be marked, that are along the south side of the property. The property itself is on the south side of Merrick Road, distance approximately 108 feet east of Washington Avenue. It's an unusual lot for a gas station, particularly in Nassau, in that the site is well over an acre. It's 48,339 square feet, and it has approximately 161, almost 162 feet of frontage on Merrick Road. There is significant green space that is on site, as you can see from the colorized site plan, particularly along the eastern side of the lot. When we were before this board a couple of years ago in connection with the existing development, the board, and understandably so, was concerned about maintaining buffering, particularly along the southern portion of the site. There is a double row of arborvitae there, as well as a 6-foot solid white PVC fence. Of note, and I think it's important as to this application, the lot, the parcels to the south, which are in fact zoned residential, lot 405, which abuts predominantly to the south along the south lot line, is also owned by the landlord here. And before the board granted approval to the current development, the applicant was agreed to and was required to file a covenant which said that that particular parcel could not be developed or used in conjunction with the gasoline service station. So that's important to note. So as such, that parcel remains residential and will not be developed or utilized, and there is no plan to develop or utilize that parcel.
I'm sorry, Counselor, can you just repeat that? I apologize. I'm just trying to get an understanding. So you're saying the south piece of the parcel?
Yes. Well, if you see the colorized site plan that's in front, up on the screen now, right? So you have the green buffer along the south lot line.
Yep.
Right, so just to the south of that is tax lot 405. That lot is owned by the landlord from whom Bola rents the subject property.
And that's the lot that has the 8-foot fence and the shrubbery?
Correct.
Got it.
So, and again, as I mentioned in connection with the original approval from 2019, we covenanted, and that covenant is filed, recorded of record, copies provided to the town, that that lot cannot be used or developed in conjunction with the gas station use. So as such, it will always remain residential.
Understood. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Brief rundown. Existing development consists of the 4,500 square foot convenience store building with Tim Hortons. There is a existing pump island canopy of approximately 4,224 square feet. That's that sort of salmon or pinkish color structure that you see on the colorized site plan running parallel to and proximate to Merrick Road. There are 8 gasoline fueling pumps as well as 2 diesel pumps underneath, but given the orientation of the pumps, there is a maximum of 16 fueling positions. 2 curb cuts on site, one on the western lot line and one on the eastern lot line. To note with respect to the curb cuts, they are right in, right out only, no left turns in or out, and the property has been striped and appropriately signed in that regard. The trash enclosure, which you see, is on the eastern side of the property, away from the residential development to the south. That's that sort of white rectangular structure within the planting buffer on the east. And there are 23 on-site parking stalls compliant with parking requirements. The proposed development, as I mentioned, consists of the 45 square foot addition along the south side for the drive-through window. There will be a drive-through lane approximately 11 feet in width and a pass-by lane for cars that decide, should they not want to make use of the drive-through, or if they find the drive-through queue to be too long, to exit the drive-through and circle around and leave. In addition, the applicant is also seeking some minor sign variances with regard to the addition of the drive-through. There will be a proposed Tim Hortons sign to be located at the bottom of the ground sign. That sign is about 20 square feet in area. As such, we'll need a minor variance to increase the size of the existing ground sign by about 20 square feet. Also, there is a variance required for the clearance from the ground level to the bottom of the proposed Tim Hortons sign is 4 feet, 7 feet required, but I'll note that the sign itself is set back roughly 5 feet from the road, and given the fact that there are no left turns permitted either in or out of that curb cut, it does not obstruct and should not obstruct sight lines in that regard. In addition, there's a small variance required with regard to the placement of a Tim Hortons wall sign on the north-facing facade. Right now, there is a Bola placard. If the board is familiar, and I know they are, with Bola signage and the branding, one of the architectural and aesthetic treatments that Bola does is they put the concrete lion placards outside the front entrance doors, which is the company symbol. We're going to remove one and in place instead put the Tim Hortons sign. And then there are certain variances for some minor directional signs that are proposed as it relates to exiting and entering the drive-through queue on site. I will note that this is not the first time that this board has considered an application for the drive-through as it relates to the gas station type use. As this board may recall, we were before you just a few months ago. I believe it was in February of this year, where we made a similar application for a drive-through at 101 Hempstead Turnpike in West Hempstead, which this board has granted. Covenants were modified on that one as well based upon a similar application. Those covenants have been filed, and we're at this point just awaiting the approval resolution in writing, and we expect to have that one up and operating within the next 2 or 3 months following the receipt of the resolution. With me here this evening, this morning I should say, to the extent this board may have any questions as it relates to the site plan itself or the design for the drive-through, I have Chris Tartaglia from High Point Engineering. He's the principal engineer. I also have with me today Andrew Valari, who has testified before this board before, from Stonefield Engineering. He is a traffic consultant and has testified and is recognized throughout Long Island. We have previously provided, in connection with our application, a copy of Stonefield's traffic report, which shows negligible impact, if not imperceptible impact, on a traffic basis. That report, I believe, was dated March 2nd. And I also have with me here this morning John Breslin from Breslin Real Estate. John has also testified before this board on numerous occasions. I do have a copy of Mr. Breslin's real estate report with me, and I'll submit that into the record if the board wouldn't mind. This is, I believe, an original and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 copies for everybody. At this time, I am actually going to ask Mr. Breslin to step up and give his presentation, if the board would not mind.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is John Breslin. I'm the principal and president of Breslin Appraisal Company with offices at 44 Elm Street in Huntington. I was retained by the applicant to give an opinion with respect to the impacts on real property values in connection with this application for the drive-through. And in doing that, I was provided the application materials, met with the applicant and the team. I also was involved in the original rezoning case and appeared before this board in connection with that. Oftentimes when you have an application for a drive-through or for relief in connection with that, the relief is based upon plans and is somewhat theoretical that you're looking at on the plans. In this case, you actually have the ability to see essentially what it will look like because the conditions on the site already exist. So when you look at the photographs of the existing conditions, you can see the property that's been redeveloped into the Bola market and service station, and you also can see the rear of the property and how it's set up for the drive-through window that will be added to the rear of the building. It's a very unusual situation for you as the reviewer of the applicant to have that condition to see exactly what it will look like. You also have had the benefit numerous times to see the redevelopment of properties by Bola throughout the town. If you'll recall what this property looked like in 2018 and 19 before the rezoning, it was an eyesore, to say the least. And now the photographs will show that it's been substantially upgraded into a very, very nice property. It's also unusually large for a gas station in the town of Hempstead for its size, which makes it easily adaptable for this additional component accessory for the drive-through window so that it can easily accommodate the drive-through along with the market and the gas pumps because of its size at almost an acre. It also has the unusual feature of having the land behind it that was part of the landlord's property so that you don't have neighboring residences that would be impacted by this particular redevelopment of this site. Whereas a residence that abuts on the west side, that was an existing condition. The creek abuts on the east side. So the factors that have influenced real property values along this corridor of the state road have existed for many, many years, and the addition of this drive-through is certainly not going to change that. So in my opinion, by granting relief to allow the drive-through and the nominal area variances for the sign, the conditions and the development pattern are not going to change. It's not going to have an adverse impact on real property values. And it provides an accessory component to better service the needs of the residents of the town of Hempstead in this community, in this specific area of the town. Be happy to answer any questions.
Ask a question?
Of course.
Mr. Breslin, can you comment on post-COVID-19, whether or not drive-through use has increased, decreased, or stayed the same since the pandemic?
It certainly has increased, Mr. Blakeman. The use of
Explain why.
Well, I think people were reticent to go in. First of all, in many cases, you couldn't go into establishments. And then people got very comfortable with going to drive-throughs. So what we noticed is that people have been using drive-throughs on a more regular basis as a result of that. There's still some reticence to go into stores by customers. So the use of drive-throughs has become a much more active component in all facilities that have them. So as I pointed out in a prior application, especially with coffee purveyors, for lack of a better description, Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks probably being the leading examples, Tim Hortons being somewhat new to this area, although not new in the business. The coffee purveyors will not now go to locations without drive-throughs because it's become such an essential part of their business model and the amount of activity that they have. So like the fast food restaurants before them, the coffee distributors or sellers now, as they look for new locations, will only do them with drive-throughs. And that goes directly to your point, and they've seen an increase in that. Even they had seen it already, but it was exacerbated by the pandemic.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Blakeman, I'll even add to that point. I know BOLA has, in speaking with its principal, Mr. Singh, who is here today, has definitely experienced an increased demand for contactless service. And this is really in response to that demand, particularly post-COVID. So to Mr. Breslin's point, there is a true need, both business-wise and from public demand, for this type of service as it relates to what we're doing here today. And if I might, I'm going to ask Andrew Villari from Stonefield to step up and just provide a little synopsis of his findings on the traffic study. Andrew?
Good morning. For the record, Andrew Villari from the firm Stonefield Engineering and Design, the traffic engineer on behalf of the applicant. We did prepare a thorough traffic study that's been submitted to the board. It was dated March 2nd, 2021. I think Mr. Altman and Mr. Breslin summarized the application well. In large part, it already exists on the property. There is a Tim Hortons in the building. And along the same lines of the conversation with Mr. Blakeman, we're looking for an opportunity to provide an amenity to the customers that presently go to this site. They may get gas, find a parking space to walk into the store today to get their cup of coffee. In the future, they'd be able to stay in their car throughout that entire transaction. They'd be able to do so from the drive-thru. Again, it already exists, so all we're anticipating is actually a shift from people that are going to find a parking space to now go through the drive-thru. So since it already exists, the net increase in traffic is actually marginal. We anticipate that a lot of the same customers that are going to the site today would then choose to go through the drive-thru in the future. They have the option to, double up their trip. They're there for gas, and then they get coffee, and they're on their way to work. With gas stations, convenience stores, coffee shops that have drive-thrus, they all have the element of what's called pass-by traffic, meaning that you may be heading eastbound on Merrick Road in the afternoon or in the morning, and you see the site coming up, you need to get gas, you pull in, you fuel up, and you keep going. Those vehicles would already be on the street. Maybe it's part of their daily commute. Not necessarily a net impact here. So we anticipate, again, a lot of shared traffic from all the uses on the site, pass-by traffic to be maintained, really to keep that eastbound flow. And we think this is a great opportunity to better serve the customer base in the community. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'll answer any questions.
I have a quick question for you. I represent the area, and I guess the concern of some of the residents that are going to show up here today is that it might pull more traffic than the continued, use that comes in there now, because we do have Starbucks in the area, and as we just said, we saw an increase during COVID-19, and sometimes the line wraps out to Sunrise Highway. The same thing with McDonald's. And I guess some of the concerns, and I don't know if the traffic study took an effect to that, is it's right on the corner of Washington Avenue to Merrick Road, which is already a very busy intersection. Did your traffic study take into account the increase in drive-thrus during the COVID-19 pandemic? And will the space be ample enough, or will we have a spillover onto the main road like we do at some of the other establishments?
Yeah, so if I understand the question correctly, Is the site well designed to handle the drive-through queue? You know, we all are well aware of maybe some Starbucks, other users that have seen some significant drive-through queuing. I think if we were a year ago today, June 2020, I think that you'd see drive-through queues that are very large because, like Mr. Breslin said, we were prohibited from going into certain establishments previously, and now things are opening back up. We see this as an opportunity to give that contactless service for the same customers. And you're right about this intersection in this area specifically. We've done traffic counts on numerous occasions at this site to understand how traffic comes in and out. And what we've done is actually, I said in my presentation that we think that there'd be a shift from parking stalls to the drive-through. In the traffic study, we didn't take that assumption. We actually did a conservative methodology where there's actually studies that have been performed by the New Jersey Department of Transportation. I know we're in New York, but the New Jersey Department of Transportation has done studies that show that when you add a drive-through on a use like this, when you have a convenience store, coffee shop, inside a gas station, they actually see only a net increase of about 20%. Now, why that is because of the types of traffic that you're seeing that would share activity on the site. You come for gas, and then you get your cup of coffee. You may already be there because of the gas. So the net increase is actually only about 20%, and what we're forecasting here is at most about 20 cars in an hour additional, which equates to about one additional car every 3 minutes, on top of what's already operating here. But going back to my original point, we think that there would be a shift from the people that are currently using Tim Hortons to just go through the drive-through now. The drive-through queue has been designed in accordance with Tim Hortons standards. They have a certain criteria for how long the drive-through queue needs to be, and that is provided on the site plan. So we're confident that the site's well laid out.
You'll also be standing by for any of the residents' questions. You can be here to answer it, correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else for your presentation?
Not at this time, Mr. Supervisor. We'll just hold on for resident comments.
Yeah, if you can hang for a little bit. Obviously, we have a lot of residents who want to be here. So we're going to go one at a time, and we're going to start with Robert Tice. Good morning, Mr. Tice. If you give your name and address for the record, that'd be awesome.
Good morning. Robert Tice, 2289 Washington Ave, Seaford, New York. Good afternoon, Mr. Clavin and town board members. First, I'd like to start with the Bowler Mart application itself, which is in a couple of places very disingenuous and misleading, okay? They state here that the variance they're seeking for the convenience store will not produce undesirable change or characteristics to the neighborhood or cause a disturbance to nearby properties, okay? Well, they're going to be having a microphone and people driving up to the microphone, which is directly adjacent to my property. If you look at the southeast corner of that map, my house is right there, about 150 feet from where the drive-through will be. Southwest, sorry. So we can't, and there's all kinds of explanations in here about how they're going to have a modified megaphone and speaker system, etc. But it doesn't take into account that sound does not travel in a straight line. It will, and at this point, I can already hear people in the parking lot talking at night. I'm unable to keep my windows open at night in my bedroom because of some of the disturbances at night. This is only going to add to that problem, and it's going to take away from my outdoor activities when I have barbecues and picnics and things of that nature. On nice, cool nights where I like to leave my windows open, I can hear people all night long talking, and this is only going to exacerbate this situation. I totally do not want this in my backyard. Secondly, they cite COVID as a reason for this, okay? Let me remind you that as of yesterday, 70% of New Yorkers have been vaccinated, all right? COVID's just about over. This is like a day late and $1 short. Also, let's see. So the noise, and also the, I'll make a couple of quick points here about the traffic, okay? They talk about eastbound, eastbound, eastbound. Westbound is the problem. People crossing over the double line to get into that gas station, going into an oncoming lane where people are trying to turn into Stop and Shop. Yes, that situation will increase 20 cars an hour, I guess. Also, let's talk about property values, okay? I've already taken a hit in my property value. Am I going to be able to sell this house to somebody when they're out there in my backyard looking at my property and all they hear is people ordering?
Understood, Mr. Tice. Obviously, we have the 3 minutes. If you could stick around, because I am going to ask at the end of it that the attorneys speak to all the residents. And just so I know, and I'm just looking at the map, yours is the one, I guess, directly abuts it. You don't have the semicircle. No, I'm looking at the map. Your neighbor has the semicircle. You're the first house. Am I right? So do you have that half moon? So is your driveway straight, or is it the half moon one? Half moon? Okay. All right. Just looking at an overlay. So stick around for a little bit, and I appreciate it, and I hear your points there. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Tice, I know you've reached out to my office. Does they make sure they have your contact information as well? Melissa's sitting right there. Melissa, wave your hand. If you can make sure she has your contact information, so we can make. Okay. Did you?
You do not want Carini visiting you. No. Listen.
Thank you.
Mr. Tartaglia? That was you signed in as one of the presidents. Christine Preet? Yeah, okay. Good morning. If you just give your name and address for the record, that'd be awesome.
Christine Pierrett, 3949 John Lane, Seaford, New York. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay, yeah, you come here with some thoughts in your head and then more come to it. Okay, let me see. In regards to the drive-thrus, as Mr. Carini has pointed out, Starbucks and McDonald's have an issue with the overflow into oncoming traffic. While the site is ample, the increase of 20% is not negligible in regards to this site, which is already very busy. The gentleman had talked about the sign, and he wanted to lower it because there's no left turns out of the property. Nothing could be further from the truth. There's nothing but illegal lefts all day. Janice has pictures of it. If you stand there for 5 minutes, you will see people continually making left-hand turns out of the property. Also, with the traffic study, 2 years ago, when I had questioned the person who did the traffic study, he conveyed to me that he had no knowledge of the amount of accidents that happen at this site. It has been designated by the Nassau County Police Department as a high accident frequency location. They use the acronym HAFL. And when I ordered a traffic study through FOIL, there was 125 accidents at that location, in the proximity, in the area, in 5 years. That's an exorbitant amount of accidents in that small area. And when I asked the guy who did the traffic study, did you have knowledge of this? He said he did not. Well, if you are doing your job and you don't know that there's 125 accidents in an area over 5 years, something's not right. Okay? While someone had said about the property behind, I think Mr. Breslin said about the property behind is wooded, that only paints part of the picture. The whole picture is there, in fact, are people who live behind there. Mr. Tice, the Kearns, the Ristanos, people live on Townsend Road, and they are subject to all that goes on there. So while you can't see them because there's a wooded area, they're in fact there. and they count just as much as anybody else. So 5 people are only affected, or 10 people, whatever the case may be. Don't they count just as much as anybody else? And even more so than the corporations who come in and don't regard them? Okay. So what we're asking for is a reserve of decision today because we want to take this. I'm part of the, I should have mentioned that earlier. I'm part of the Civic Association. I work with Phil Franco.
Okay.
Yes, I understand the 3 minutes. Just give me 1 second. We want to reserve on the decision because we want to take this to the community. We want to get their sense of what's going on. We only had a week to prepare, which is obviously not enough time. And we want
Understood. So maybe we'll work with Councilman Carini's office and my office to help facilitate the meeting with the Civic Association on it as well. You know, hear your concerns loud and clear, okay?
And I want time also to be able to get another FOIL report in regards to what's going on in that area for the last 2 years.
That's it.
since Roll's been there.
Kathy Malone, Kathy, if you just raise your hand. Kathy's going to get your name and address to set up the meeting, okay?
Thank you.
And Christine, I did speak to Roberta, who reached out to me from your board, and she's talking to Phil Franco, so we're aware of your concerns. So.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Suzanne Kern? Good morning, Ms. Kern.
Good morning.
How you doing? Name and address for the record.
Susan Kern, 2285 Washington Avenue. I'm the house next to Mr. Tice, right behind the gas station.
You're the first house?
First house.
Gotcha.
I'm afraid I might be a little repetitive after Mr. Tice and Christine, but number one, the drive-through, the line going out to Merrick Road. I know they're saying it won't be an issue, but I just can't imagine they would go through the trouble and the money of doing this and not expect a big increase in their customers. I mean, why else would you do it except to increase your bottom line? I really don't think they're just doing it to make it easier for the people that normally would go inside. And it does get dangerous with a line going out to Merrick Road. Number two, the noise. As Christine said, sound travels. There's houses on both sides of the empty lot. It's going to be an intrusion. And finally, I read through the whole application, and I did see at the beginning there's a little section where it says that the town board's purpose is to consider not only the business applying for the variances, but if there's any detriment to the neighborhood. This is definitely detriment to the neighborhood. And I'm good.
Thank you, Ms. Kern. And like I said, that's the purpose of the hearing. So we're grateful to you for coming down, and I'm sure we're going to be having a follow-up as well.
Ms. Kern, make sure you give your information to my executive assistant over there, Melissa, please. So you can take your information for the future. Thank you.
Was Andrew Village part of your team? Okay. Now, I do not have any other slips. Is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to be heard on this application? Okay. Now we will go to the go-to webinar portion of the meeting, and I will ask the moderator if anybody is raising their hand on that portion of the meeting.
Yes, Supervisor. The first participant is Greg Sims. Greg Sims, please go ahead with your comment.
Hi, good morning. Greg Sims, 2323 Washington Avenue, Seaford, New York. I first kind of want to address the traffic. Can you all hear me?
Yep, we can hear you great.
Beautiful, thank you. First, to address the traffic, Mr. Valeri it was, I believe, did a traffic study. I would ask him, how many people over the course of that traffic study did he notice making illegal left turns both into and out of that gas station? That is the biggest problem that I've heard, not only from my neighbors in the area, but anyone else passing through there. All right, I know that you say the far eastbound curb cut does have no left turn signs and no entrance signs. On the west side, it says do not enter facing the place so that you could not exit. Now, the biggest issue, as Mr. Tice said, was people entering the turning lane heading westbound to make a left turn into the gas station. This will only increase with this proposal. There was once, if you look at the colorized drawing that you guys have provided us, there's a tree in the northwest corner, kind of on the sidewalk there. There used to be a no left turn sign there. It was very poorly situated, very tough to see. Since then, someone either hit it or cut it down. I didn't get a chance to provide you with pictures. I have pictures of this no left turn sign laying on the ground for months, and it was never replaced. There is a no left turn sign on the opposite side of the street, 5 lanes away from this entrance. People will continue making left turns, very dangerous left turns, into this establishment. On top of that, there is also the Stop and Shop, and the Dunkin' Donuts for that matter. I pass by this every time I drive to work. All right, I see countless people driving straight across 5 lanes of traffic to both get into and out of the gas station. To say that traffic will not be effective and it will not provide any more dangerous conditions is kind of absurd. Secondly, this drive-through was originally built to be a quote-unquote truck turnaround. Look at that drawing really quickly. Think of a tractor trailer. Think of an oil tanker, a gas tanker. Is any truck ever going to be able to make it through there and turn around? No. This was clearly meant to be a drive-through from the get-go. I understand COVID has hurt a lot. I own a business. It has also hurt my business. I've had to pivot. I didn't ask for variances. I figured it out. People will still be able to park and go in, get their coffee, get their sandwiches. All right, this is not going to make the area any safer. It's only going to make it worse. All right, this has been, obviously, I mean, it's an assumption, and I think it's a safe one. This was the goal from the beginning. I imagine they wanted this when it was first built. And I'm assuming that you did not allow it, which is why we're here today. I'm asking what has changed, of course, aside from COVID, that makes this any more of a good idea.
Thank you very much. He was on Washington Avenue. Is that correct, Chris? Okay.
Mr. Sims, could you do me a favor, too, and please reach out to my office to provide your contact information? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor, next participant is Janice Powell-Tice. Janice, please go ahead with your comment.
Janice? Janice?
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now. There you go.
I'm sorry. For some reason, the music keeps playing on here, so I'm hoping you can.
It's okay.
Yes, I am Robert's wife. I reside at 2289 Washington Avenue, Seaford, and I'd like to just add to some of these comments what Greg Sims mentioned, that basically this has no added value. The only added value is to BOLA. It doesn't add value to the town. It doesn't bring you more taxes, and all it does is hurt the neighbors. There's no added value to this. I like to talk about my quality of life since BOLA has come into our lives. As my husband alluded, we can no longer keep our bedroom windows open. At night, almost every night, the delivery trucks honk their horns when they arrive. That's the noise I fall asleep to now, or try to fall asleep to. Kids are hanging out. I've called the fire department on 2 occasions last summer due to intense gas odors. One during a family barbecue, and we all had to go inside. Life with BOLA has been stressful and, quite frankly, frustrating, and this is only going to add to it. You know, we're talking about the mics through the drive-through, but there's also, we need to consider that on a summer evening, these cars are going to have their windows down and their music playing, and I'm going to hear that music in my backyard. There's no question about it. I hear people talking when they fill up their gas tanks if I'm in my backyard. I've had to call the police due to domestic disputes at the gas station. You know, we talk about the danger of the traffic. My mother's home health aide was hit by a car right at that corner. I mean, this goes on. This is our lives. This is the life we live with BOLA because of the additional traffic, the additional noise it has created for us. We sat with Harry Singh personally, in a small group, and he promised us and he talked to us supposedly from his heart that, he cared about us, he cared about our community, and he thought about us when he made decisions. Well, this is arrogance and selfless business at this point, and there's no thought or care to us, the immediate neighbors, and the community. it's beyond upsetting to think that I am no longer going to be, if this goes through, I won't be able to sit and enjoy my backyard. I can't tell you how beyond upset this is. You know, they talked, Mr. Breslin talked about the property values. I find it kind of a conflict of interest for him to be addressing that, as he was the one who sold the property to BOLA. I don't know how he could address the town board in regards to property values. I understand he's in real estate, but I do believe there's a conflict of interest there. You know, they talk about that the
Okay. Mr. Tice, obviously, you know, we heard your wife's concerns as well with the property, so relay that loud and clear that we heard every single word she was speaking on that phone right now, if you would. And we will follow up, I said, with you as well as with your wife on that. Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor, no other participant has raised their hand at this time.
Okay. Counselor, obviously, you've heard we've had a number of residents that have raised a lot of concerns, and I think it's fair to say, I think, you know, they rightfully should have an opportunity to be heard. You know, I'm a little concerned with the fact that the left-hand sign is turned down. I am a little concerned that there's a left-hand turn lane to go into the Stop and Shop on the south side of that road. Well, is there a prohibitive, and you just tell me, if you're heading west on Merrick Road, is there signage on the middle of the road, the other side, saying no left-hand turns into BOLA at that location?
Mr. Supervisor, if I may, I'll ask Chris Tartaglia to step.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. For the record, my appearance, Chris Tartaglia, principal owner of the firm High Point Engineering, located in Farmingdale, New York. Just to echo your concerns and questions from the residents. We do appreciate them coming out, and we have indeed heard their concerns. And as we indicated, Mr. Singh is here, emblematic of his concern to make good on the discussions he had in the beginning with these folks when this facility was built. Indeed, it is a busy and successful facility, as many of BOLA's are. Just a reminder that this was a gasoline service station in the not too distant past prior to BOLA purchasing it and redeveloping it as a filling station. But there's just 2 points I want to hit on in response because I believe they're pertinent. One is with regard to Mr. Tice's and others' concerns about the noise from the menu board. I definitely understand that. We had done a study on the intensification of sound from the menu board, and one of the very specific elements of this development is that the Tim Hortons menu board is manufactured by a company called HME, and HME has a automatic volume suppression speaker on its drive-through menu boards. As a result, and again, I'll submit this study into the board for review. I didn't bring copies with me, but the net result of the analysis is we projecting sound levels at the property line, not at the homes, but actually at the residential property line to the south. The projected sound levels are 30 decibels. Just by virtue of what 30 decibels means, how loud is that? 30 decibels is considered as a soft whisper from 5 feet away. So these are pretty minor sounds. Now I understand Mr. Tice said they're hearing voices at the pumps and people talking at the pump islands. That's several hundred feet away from his house. I don't know if the wind is blowing in that direction during that time, but that's a long way away for somebody to hear people talking at the pumps. The only other thing I would add is that the concerns over the drive-through length I heard earlier in the discussions. So as was indicated by Mr. Altman, if you look up at the plan, so the drive-through windows at the rear of the building, the westerly property line is 200 feet long. So even if we were to have a massive queue, which we don't anticipate more than 6 to 7 cars, we would literally be able to accommodate another 10 to 12 cars on the site, so no impact to any kind of traffic safety on the roadway. Just with regard to the final point about the signs missing, I will review this with Mr. Singh. I know that we were at the site this morning before we came, and I don't know if it was just past memories, but I thought I saw those signs there, the no left turn signs. And if they're not there, they certainly will go back up. And these were approved by the county, these driveways, the entry only on the west and the exit only on the right, and no left turns in. And if there are lawbreakers out there that choose to make that move, there's not really all that much that BOLA can do about it other than put the signs up. And
No, and I get that. And one of the things I was going to suggest is, particularly with the county, maybe meeting with the precinct and the local commander and say, how about just enforcing the laws that are down there? The neighbors, obviously are pointing it out, and I know the area well. Maybe they need to do some enforcement to really send the message so the residents can understand when the county put up a sign that says no left turn, it actually means no left turn. So what I'd like to do is follow up with the councilman to set that up to help, reinforce that to the local group down there. And they're very receptive. I think they can understand it. I mean, I can understand the safety concern. If it says no left turn, there should be no left turn. It's as easy as that.
It's not a move that I make, Supervisor Clavin. I don't think it's one that you make, but there might always be someone who will take that risk, unfortunately.
No, that's stupid. Now, I do want to point out we did have somebody else that did raise their hand on the go-to webinar right now. Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor Andy Restaino. Andy Restaino, please go ahead with your comment. Andy, you're muted on your side. Please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you there. If you just give your name and address for the record, that'd be awesome.
Sure. My name is Andy Restaino. I live at 2294 Townsend Road in Seaford.
Okay.
I appreciate the opportunity to address you folks. I guess most of the concerns have already been reflected with the other people, but I guess I live on a different street, and I suppose I got a little different perspective. It's just as bad or maybe worse. First of all, as far as the no left turns are concerned, it's amazing how many people ignore that. Just on Saturday, I saw 4 people at the same time trying to make illegal left turns while a police officer just drove by. So clearly the enforcement needs to be done, and I really welcome the reach out to the precinct to maybe do something about that. The horn honking, there was just a horn that honked now. I don't know if you guys could have heard that. That happens all the time, of course, because of the bad traffic. And specifically with our street, I don't know if you see the map and where we are, but we're making a left turn out of our block has become that much more difficult. In fact, some people who are trying not to make the left turn, instead make a right turn, immediately go into the left lane and then make a left turn into Stop and Shop to do some sort of glorified U-turn, which blocks us from being able to make our left turns onto Merrick Road. I don't know whether or not we should seek a traffic light or not. I mean, that's probably all part of this, and it's probably not the town's job to do that. But one of my neighbors said that she no longer makes the left turn out of this block. She only makes a right turn and then has to go out of her way because she's too afraid to make a left turn from now on. And not to mention that my son, who has just got his learner's permit, I'm scared to death of him driving, down the block because the traffic is just unbearable. And whoever did the study, I'd like to invite them over so that they can see what I see, because clearly they're not seeing it. One other thing, I guess another experience as far as all these no left turns are concerned. I tend to ride my bicycle in the morning for some exercise. More than one occasion, I almost got hit by a car with these illegal left turns. At one time, it was actually right underneath the no left turn sign that's mysteriously missing right now. So it's just being ignored. I have a funny feeling that the westbound commuters, they're not going to go drive, a few blocks out of their way to make the eastbound. They're going to continue to do these illegal left turns. And I kind of think I wouldn't be one bit surprised if BOLA expects that to happen.
We appreciate it, and I will tell you, I do think it's imperative we follow up with the local police department to do some enforcement. Also, maybe we could follow up with the county about looking at that intersection of Townsend and Merrick Road if it does warrant some kind of traffic device there to alleviate the concerns of the residents there and their safety. Anything you want to add?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. If I just might, there was a comment made as it relates to Mr. Breslin, John Breslin, that is, who testified here today. No relation whatsoever to the Breslin, who is the principal of the landlord for our site. You know, a lot of comments have been made.
Hold on. I'm gonna give you. We just had a last minute raise their hander, so why don't we give them a chance before you summarize there in case they bring something up. Mr. Moderator.
Yes, Supervisor Elizabeth Voles. Elizabeth Voles, please go ahead with your comment.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Voles.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Awesome.
I have been in this town of Hempstead all my life, and I see what goes on at Starbucks. I see what goes on at McDonald's. And this morning I went into the Shell station. And
Miss, you're coming in a little broken up. Can you get a little closer to the mic? We can't understand what you're saying.
The one on Sunrise Highway in front of the Adult Entertainment Club that almost was open but closed for now. That sign's always been pulled down. So obviously the Ford dealership does not have enough parking for their employees, so it spills out onto the street. So for decades, the homeowners had to struggle.
Elizabeth, I'm sorry. Can you get closer to the mic? We really can't understand what you're saying right now.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
You still.
Can you move any closer to the mic, Ms. Voles?
Can you hear me now? Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's better.
You can hear me now?
Yep.
I'm just trying to relate on Sunrise Highway in front of the Planned Entertainment Club that I also, and a lot of other few people, and many others tried to prevent from opening. The sign is conveniently cut down. There's no parking from here to corner, and that site has been a major accident. And I wouldn't be a volunteer fireman if I had to deal with all this nonsense that the town does. Put the sign back up. We were promised by your BZA a couple of years ago to put it back up. It was never replaced, and when it does get replaced, somebody cuts it down so the overflow of the employees of the Ford dealership can park there. So what's going to happen with that? You can put that sign back up so to hopefully be less traffic accidents when people make a right on red? Because the accidents on McDonald's already are going to increase, and Starbucks. I don't know where you're coming from with this parking study, traffic study. Do our taxpayer dollars pay for that?
No.
Do they? Can you hear me?
No. Supervisor, no. Say the applicant.
The applicant will address it.
I believe the resident was asking if the taxpayers pay for the traffic study.
And who paid for the traffic study? Can you let us all know?
Paid for the traffic study?
Yeah. Yes. The applicant paid for the traffic study, ma'am.
Well, why aren't the residents invited? They're the ones who drive the road.
Miss, you were asking why weren't the residents included in the traffic study, their concerns? Is that what you were asking us? Ms. Volzer, we're having a hard time hearing. If you can do me a favor, if you can email my office all the statements you're making today, because we're having a hard time. I think a lot of people in the audience are having a hard time understanding what you're saying. So please, if you could.
No, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. We can barely hear you.
I want to know where the legal notices were placed.
Where were the legal notices placed? That's a question she has.
Well, I don't think there are legal notifications for a traffic study.
There's no posting requirement.
No, for this meeting, for this BZA meeting about the Bola Market.
This isn't the BZA, ma'am.
Well, all right, you're supposed to have two legal notices. Where are they?
I'm sorry, Mr. Supervisor. I cannot hear a word this person is saying. It's a lot of
I think the meeting was properly published as per the rules and regulations of the town.
It's not a BZA meeting. Mr. Tice, you're back there, right? Yes. Does Mrs. Voles live near you? I'm not aware. Okay, all right. And Mrs. Voles, did you send an email this morning?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my assistant respond to you via email to set up a telephone call so we can get a list of your concerns. Is that fair enough?
No, I want you to read my email to the group and see if they agree with my concerns.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, well, I don't have it handy. If you want to resubmit it, we can make it part of the record.
Well, I want to tell you is how are the fire department volunteers going to get to all these fires and emergencies on Winter Avenue, South of Merrick Road? On Washington Avenue.
What's your home address, ma'am?
I don't feel I have to give it out in public. I signed up to this meeting, it's on record, and that's it.
Miss, I'm going to have my office reach out to you later on today to get all your concerns, because you're having a really hard time communicating with you through this system right now. I don't know. For some reason, we're not picking you up that well, but we will. You'll have your chance to be heard. I guarantee you this is not going to be the final say today, so you're going to be able to be heard, okay, miss? So please do me a favor, and you email my office as well, too, today?
Yeah.
Okay. My office will be in contact with you. Melissa, make sure you please contact Ms. Foltz today, and we'll get all her concerns, okay?
Thank you. They had the moment to speak, so we're just going to, are there anybody else raising their hand? Okay. Ms. Olmos, want to conclude?
Look, Mr. Supervisor, obviously there is a lot of comment here. There's a lot of concern. We hear what the board is saying. We certainly hear what the residents are saying. We're not tone deaf, far from it. And setting aside some of the personal comments that have been made today, which I find highly inappropriate, we are happy to sit down with the district council person, with the residents, as we previously did, and we worked through many of the issues before, to hear what they have to say and to see if we can ameliorate some of their concerns.
Well, our decision today, I'm going to make a motion in a little while to reserve decision. I think we have to have a meeting with the community, so
understood.
Please, we're going to get all the contact information for everybody that spoke today, and we want to have I want you guys to set up a meeting, to meet with them. My staff will be there as well.
I was going to say, I'm happy to do that.
Hopefully we can get somebody also from the 7th Precinct involved too as well.
Yeah, I think part of the real issue is here, and I do appreciate you taking the time and listening to the concerns, but I do feel part of it really is a sort of an enforcement issue with the county. You see it everywhere. When the county comes in and does some enforcement, it sends a message. So the councilman and I will be happy to reach out to the local legislator, the precinct commander, if need be, the commissioner, to try and help the enforcement so the residents can be a little more at ease down there.
We greatly appreciate that. And just to add a little color, because, Mr. Supervisor, I know you were not on the board previously when this application was considered a few years ago, and I don't believe the councilman was either. We had community outreach. We sat down with the residents. We heard a lot of the similar concerns as it relates to, I hate to say, bad driver behavior, which, with all due respect, cannot be laid at Bola's doorstep. But in any event, comments were raised, questions and concern, and we share those same concerns. Bola operates a business here. It's a resident of the community, as it is throughout the town of Hempstead. And we, too, worked with Councilwoman Sweeney at the time in her office to engage in a little bit of outreach with Suffolk County DPW and with the police, and yet here we are and we're hearing some of the same concerns. So we share a little bit of that frustration that this circumstance still exists today. So we're happy to work with you cooperatively in that regard. So if we can address traffic safety concerns, happy to do it.
We're grateful, and we're grateful to hear that. So thank you very much. With that, I have no one else wish to be heard on that. I am going to ask for a motion.
I'm going to make the motion that we reserve decision and we do a little more community outreach. Thank you.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Anthony?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the first item on the decision calendar.
The first decision is the application of 204F Realty LLC to reconfigure pump islands, erect canopy over reconfigured pump islands, convert service bays to convenience store, and to operate a self-service in Roosevelt.
May I please have a motion on this item?
Is Mr. Oh, okay, I'm going to move it and accept it.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the second case on the decision calendar.
Our second decision is the application of MCRT Investments LLC to rezone from Business X to Residence CA in order to facilitate the redevelopment of the premises from a predominantly vacant and blighted commercial retail space to a vibrant, state-of-the-art, transit-oriented residential development in West Hempstead.
Can I have a motion?
I move that the application be adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay. Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor, with the public hearing portion of the meeting concluded, we remind our participants the GoToWebinar platform will now be turned off, and we invite those participants to continue following the meeting on the town's live stream.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the administrative calendar.
On the administrative calendar, we have items 13 through 69. I also have one item that is of an urgent or emergency nature. That first emergency resolution is entitled Resolution Authorizing the Town Attorney to Commence, Institute, and Defend the Town of Hempstead in certain legal actions and proceedings. This item will be added to the administrative calendar as item 70.
Okay, first, is any member of the board who should be heard in administrative calendar?
Well, Mr. Supervisor, I'd just like to say that I joined with Councilman D'Esposito with the emergency application to hire counsel. We are seeing around the town of Hempstead, especially in areas close to our beaches, that there are a number of people that are renting out their premises on a daily basis or a weekly basis to people who are party promoters. And what they do is they rent these out, and then they have 100 people or so come and make loud noise. They come from outside of the area, and they cause many, many problems for the residents. So I want to join Councilman D'Esposito on this because it's affecting my district. I know it's affecting his district, and I'm sure it's going to affect the districts of many people that are on this board. So I do want to say that I'm very much in favor of hiring outside counsel to address this matter.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other board member wish to be heard on the administrative calendar? I have a couple of slips here. We'll start with Felix Procacci. Good afternoon, Mr. Procacci. For your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Felix Procacci, Franklin Square. I guess the resolution that Mr. Blakeman spoke about has to do with that hand up. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. How is this different than what existing law, the existing town law? I mean, didn't you have these rights already? Why is it necessary to have this resolution as opposed to existing law?
No.
So, Mr. Procacci.
Perhaps it'd be best if I address that. Yes. The town will always have the right to enforce its codes and defend itself as well. But in certain instances, we need to act with alacrity where our own violations and our notices of violations don't result in adequate or sufficient remedy to our residents. So what this hand-up resolution does is authorize the town attorney, the town itself, and designees, as Councilman Blakeman referred to them, outside counsel that we may retain to initiate the proceedings. And each and every one of them would ordinarily require their own separate resolution for which there wouldn't be adequate time in light of the urgent nature of the circumstances, which again, I think Councilman Blakeman adequately described. Parties, violations, other issues pertaining to parking violations and disruptions, nuisances, that are disrupting the quality of life throughout the town, which we cannot wait for an individual board resolution. That's what this does. So we have the inherent power. You are correct about that. But rather than wait for each and every instance to be authorized by a separate town board resolution, this is authorizing the town attorney and the town itself to have outside counsel where necessary, or internal counsel, if that be sufficient and adequate, to protect the town's rights and protect its residents. Is that sufficient, Mr. Prakash?
Yeah, you tell me if this is also included. I don't mind taking urgent action, the town taking urgent action, but there got to be an accountability, because there's times when government goes beyond what it should be doing. So everything should circle around to a resolution. So if you feel you need to take action today, for example, and there was no meeting until August, okay, fine, you take that action, but all that action needs to be codified in a resolution. Any costs associated with attorneys or any engineers or whatever is hired for each of those properties or disturbances that you're talking about here. Because to have it just one way, the way it appears you're saying it, I think is incorrect. You need to have some sort of feedback. If you want to take action today, I agree. Someone's going wrong, fine. But now you have to come back with a resolution at the next town board meeting and codify what you did and justify it. So there is feedback, so the person that you acted upon has a chance to have his or her voice. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. There are other safeguards in place that will allow those acted upon, as you refer to them, to have their voice. This is simply to allow for us to act with speed and all due deliberation in between town board meetings, especially as these problems begin to rise and erupt more frequently.
But you will bring any actions you take in between board meetings to a resolution and indicate what counsel was hired, the costs, so there is transparency. So things aren't done in a vacuum, because to just act where the public doesn't know what's going on, I don't think is the correct way, because I know state law does require the town board to authorize expenditures. You can't just do it outside of, the realm of the town board. The town board may not be aware of every instance in which the building department or whatever agencies go after some violator.
There won't be a specific authorization, a specific resolution for each enforcement action that the town chooses to bring. Any more than there would be a particular board resolution every time a notice of violation.
Not notice of violation, but if you take to seize someone's properties, to take some sort of, where you're limiting their access to their property, something, they got to come to a resolution, just like a Chapter 90 or something like that.
Mr. Procacci, you agree with the resolution that's at hand, right? That's what you started off with?
In substance.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so, Mr. Procacci, just to give you a practical example, if one of our residents find out that one of their neighbors, usually an absentee landlord, is renting their house out for one of these parties, they contact the town, and the town contacts an attorney on an on-call basis or handles it internally. It's up to the town attorney. And at that point, we can take action to try and stop it from happening before it destroys the neighborhood. And typically this happens spring, summer, and fall in areas like East Atlantic Beach, where it's become a real problem for people in my district. And I know in Hewlett it's become a problem as well.
Okay, one more thing, number 18 on the calendar. This kind of speaks to a little bit, it's a different subject completely, but we're ratifying a CSEA agreement that is between December 14th and April 18th. We already did one back in January. Why is it after the fact?
Yes. This particular resolution deals with things that are more expansive than the MOA that was on the calendar earlier. In particular, it deals with the mandates of the state with respect to quarantine pay, as well as the agreement that was reached with the union for those who were required to come to work as urgent and necessary workers, so on and so forth. I'm not going to recount all of the items contained within the MOA, but it ratifies and tightens up all of the agreements that were negotiated between the union and the town of Hempstead, so that the workforce not only had the protections of state law, but they were also incorporated into a memorandum of understanding between the town and the union itself.
Okay.
Thank you. Giagoras? Okay, okay. Bonnie Green? Okay. Garone? Bonnie Garone? That could just be my reading, so. Your name and address for the record, thank you.
Bonnie Garone, Garone, Rockville Center. So there are 3 items on the administrative calendar that concern Mr. Butch Yamali's companies, and I'm going to identify the 3, and then I have some specific questions. Item 36 allocates an additional $72,000 to run the Malibu parking fee booths, and there's no indication of whether Mr. Yamali has complied with the agreement so far since it was reached in December of 2020. Item 37 adds 5 more years to his contract to run concessions and vending machines at town parks, and there's no copy of the agreement that's being extended, and none of the terms are indicated. And item 38 is allowing Mr. Yamali to, quote, surrender the Sands facility, and gives him a credit of $125,000 of taxpayer money, but there's no copy of the agreement in the materials, if there is an agreement, and there's no explanation of the credit of $125,000, why he is due that. So my first question is, it was widely reported at the time that the Eastern District U.S. Attorney launched a federal investigation of Mr. Yamali's conduct in connection with Malibu. And my question is, to your knowledge, is the federal investigation ongoing, or has it been concluded?
Ms. Garone, I can tell you, having been an Eastern District prosecutor, that the U.S. Attorney's Office does not announce that investigations are concluded. They never, once an investigation is initiated, it will either end as they traditionally do in some sort of indictment, or if it isn't going to end at all, they never say to the subjects or the objects of the investigation, oh, we're done, and nothing further is going to happen. But there has been an extraordinary lapse of time in which nothing has happened, and almost by logical implication, I think you can draw the correct inference. They will not, nobody's going to state from the prosecutor's office that an investigation has been closed and no wrongdoing has been found. Beyond that, we're really skating on thin ice by talking about any such matters, because they are often at the request of the prosecutorial authorities that we not disclose the existence of any such investigation in and of itself. I'm only referencing what you're saying because you said it was widely reported. Perhaps that's so, but I'm neither going to confirm nor deny the existence of any such investigation. And I point out to you that another routine procedure by the investigator's office is to request, in addition to compliance by any authority or any figure or any entity, not only their full cooperation, but that they not discuss or disclose any of the details or facts of that matter.
Have you made any inquiries to the U.S. Attorney's Office on that subject?
If inquiries were made, I would not be in a position to disclose them to you. That was the point of what I just tried to explain about the way in which the prosecutorial authorities operate, the ways in which they act.
Okay, thank you. In item 38, the resolution states, quote, since 2011, Dover Sands, Inc. has occupied a facility, unquote, at Lido Beach. In addition to occupying it, is there any current contract between the town of Hempstead and Dover Sands, Inc. for the occupation of that facility?
That is a matter of dispute. It is the position of Dover, which is why this is a surrender and release agreement that was negotiated and entered into, that they do have such a lease. No such leasehold has ever been approved by the town board. Nonetheless, we do acknowledge that Dover has been in lawful possession since at least 2011 of its Sands catering facility, and throughout that period has made repairs, maintenance, capital improvements, so on and so forth. Further, they have operated a successful catering business in that area. It was their intention and their desire to remain there. It was that is the town of Hempstead's intention, when Supervisor Clavin and his administration began, to retake the premises and repurpose it for example, senior enrichment and other parks and recreation purposes. In approaching Dover, who maintained that they weren't going to acknowledge or relinquish any rights to any leasehold, any license, any claims at law, equity, admiralty, or contract in their operation of the premises, which is indisputable since at least 2011, and in acknowledgement of the fact that they did maintain, repair, and make capital improvements at the facility, they agreed to the request by the town of Hempstead to surrender the facility. And in exchange for the surrender, we have agreed to give them a $125,000 credit. It is a credit that Dover, its affiliates, subsidiaries, parent corporations may use for any other of its obligations to the town of Hempstead. Now, your specific question was about a lease. I think I've actually gone as expansively as I possibly could to answer your question by saying that is the position of Dover, that there is a lease which they are relinquishing. We maintain that they had been lawfully in occupation, but there was no enforceable lease. It is a litigation, a litigatable issue. It's something that could be litigated, let me put it that way, instead of trying to find the correct adjective. This is something over which litigation could ensue. We've avoided litigation. And when you ask about the $125,000 credit, I assure you that both parties would spend a multiple of $125,000 litigating over this, as well as wasting a great deal of time, instead of agreeing to the negotiations as we have, that we would give a $125,000 credit in exchange for Dover relinquishing every right, title, and interest, law, equity, contract, any claim whatsoever, and the exchange of general releases, any claim for the fair market value or the depreciated value of improvements that they made over the past 10 or 11 years, so on and so forth, and they would let us, the town of Hempstead, take it back so that we could utilize the premises as a recreational and parks facility.
Yeah, and let me just supplement what our town attorney said. You should be aware that the town retained outside counsel, Mr. Donald Chesworth from Rochester, New York, who's a former FBI agent, former district attorney of Monroe County, and a former state superintendent of the New York State Police, who advised us through this process as an attorney and recommended these settlements.
So with respect to whether Mr. Yamali has met his obligations under the agreement that the town entered into with him in December of 2020, has he met all of his obligations thus far? So for example, did he make the $167,000 payment by February 28th for the 2019 toll booth revenue?
At this point, it is our view that Dover is in complete compliance, and that was a matter that I verified with our controller before these matters were put on the town board calendar today.
Okay, but I asked this specific question, whether he made that payment by February 28th. I'd also like to know whether he paid $400,000 upon entering into the agreement and another $400,000 prior to April 1st of this year, as he was required to do.
I can assure you that both the $400,000 payment from December and the one that you're referencing in April, I personally looked into, and I know for a fact that they were in fact made. The other one that you're referencing, I don't have a particularized recollection, but I also assure you that we checked with the controller to make sure they were current on all their obligations.
And did he make his payment that was due by May 10th, which by my calculation is approximately $33,542?
Thank you very much. Mr. Nacella, again, I think your statement was that you talked to the controller, and what was it? You felt?
That they were in compliance.
Okay.
Can I get
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Next, I'm going to call up Heidi Sanft.
Can I get an answer to the May 10th
Thank you. Mr. Nacella did give you a very detailed answer, a very, very detailed answer, as you always seem to do so, Mr. Nacella, and we're very grateful for that.
It was very wordy.
Well, thank you very much, and we appreciate it, Ms. Graham. Thank you. Heidi Sanft.
Good.
Good afternoon. If you give your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. My name is Heidi Sanft. Excuse me. I'm the Vice President of the No String Garden Civic Association in Uniondale. My address is 116 Florence in Hempstead. My topic today is beautification of Uniondale Avenue in Uniondale. It's a passion for me. First of all, I would like to thank, and I know she's here, Kathy Milone. You have been an angel to work with. First time I see you without a mask on. Hi, Kathy. Also, Joe Marciano is being a pleasure. Just little details, things that need to be fixed, removed, lights, bulbs, planters, trees, you name it. I'm getting very good cooperation from the town, so it's greatly appreciated. 2 questions. Actually, I should thank also whoever set up the garbage pickers. I don't know if that was you, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. If it was, thank you. Another good thing, someone, I think it must have been the town, arranged for hundreds of tulips to be planted at Cedar Street Park. If that was you, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, thank you very much. Okay, 2 questions. Question number 1, the tulips are now faded. Is there any way you might be able to put something else in? You know, leave the bulbs in, of course, so they come in next year because they are perennials. Just maybe put some hosta in, something to perk up the area. It looks kind of sloppy right now, so that's question 1.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'll tell you what we're doing. This is the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation.
This is our Parks Commissioner. Frank.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Board and Supervisor. We understand that the tulips have withered away. We will attempt to leave the bulbs in, or if it doesn't take next spring, we will adjust and make it as beautiful as we can make it. And the Senior Councilwoman is constantly monitoring it, and we're going to always keep it looking good for you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what is your name?
Frank Zangler from Parks Department.
He's the Commissioner of the Parks Department.
What is the last name again?
Zangler.
Zangla. Z-A-N-G-L-A.
Z-A-N-G-L-A.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Could you put something, a little something in now? Like hosta, something just, you know.
Absolutely. Senior Councilman reached out to me yesterday afternoon and said exactly to do that. So we're going to follow through on it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Senior Councilwoman. Okay, number 2 is a little bit more involved, but it still has to do with beautification and economic development. I'm a small business owner, so this is another area that means a lot to me. Okay, is there any way, this is regarding the facades on Uniondale Avenue. In the past, we were told that the owners have to share the cost to put facades on the stores. Is there any way that funds from the CARES Act or President Biden's rescue plans can be allotted to help with building, putting up some facades on Uniondale Avenue? The business owners are suffering greatly. I know I have 1 second, so that's
What
my
I'll say
question.
is our Planning and Economic Development, John Rodkamp, Commissioner, we will have him reach out to you about what's available in those funds from his department for that area down there with the facades.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, he has my email, so he can email me.
And thank you very much. And I do want to personally say thank you for the very nice compliments to the people we work with. Everybody does a diligent job here in the town, and it's nice when somebody gives a nice compliment. And I will give you personally the addition of saying, yes, Kathy Malone does a fantastic job. I've had the pleasure of working with her for 20 years, and she's a real joy. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
you picked
Very nice.
someone really good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you. I have.
Wait a minute, I have to thank.
Hold on.
I have to thank the staff too. And I have to say, I'm very pleased with a new commissioner. He does whatever I need him to do. I call him Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whatever day, and he does it. I'm sorry I had to work you up on Sunday, okay? But you got up anyway. Thank you. And I said same thing for our planning department. Great.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. Next, I have on item number 44, Harisha Bayogadej. How you doing? Just give your name and address. Good afternoon.
My name is Harisha Boygodage. I'm a resident of Baldwin Harbor. I'm here to speak about Baldwin Harbor Shoreline Development Project. I sent an email on Monday, June 7th at 7:51 p.m. To Mr. Tooman, and it was copied to Councilman Carini and also Mr. Don Clavin. So I like to add that email to the record of this board. The Baldwin Harbor Shoreline Development Project. So this project covers rebuilding of the bulkhead on the Oakwood Canal. That's right next to my house. So what the town wants to do is take out the existing bulkhead and put a living shoreline. And on top of that, they want to put a walking path in the back of my house on the other side in the park, and also open up the water through a kayak launch. So we had a meeting in January 2020, and then the entire community said we want just the bulkhead, rebuilt, and we don't want to open up the park area, which has been habitat to a lot of wildlife, and also we don't want to open up the murky water to kayakers because it's dangerous. So Mr. Tooman was at that meeting, and then also Mr. Carini was at the meeting. They said, okay, so if the community is not for this project, so we're going to hear your comments, and then they open up a portal for all of us to submit our comments. So which most of my neighbors submitted their comments for against this project, and then Mr. Tooman said in an email to me, I have that email here. So he will get back to us and give us another meeting for the community to respond. We're yet to have that meeting, and also we don't know the feedback from the community. So what we are requesting is, and on top of that, we see all the equipments parked on the canal, and then it looks like the project is starting. So we need another.
Are you speaking on number 41 on the calendar, or just the project down there in general?
Project down there in general.
Okay, so we're in the administrative calendar, so we'll include this on that's on the miscellaneous portion of the calendar. So right now we're just dealing with the administrative calendar. Okay. All right. So stick around, and we'll call you back up for the other one. All right. Does anybody else wish to be heard on the administrative calendar that's here today? Sure, if you walk up to the mic and we got 1 and 2, give your name and address, please.
Hi, Ann Madden, Hempstead. Item number 46. Could someone please explain to me specifically about this awning, where it is?
Commissioner, if you'd come on up and explain about item number 46.
Supervisor, Town Board. Number 46 is we're asking the Town Board to pass a resolution to fix the movable awning over the exercise pens outside. The northwest quadrant is in, broke, is in disrepair.
Okay.
To fix it or replace it? It says to do away with it. It says something.
Yeah, when it's a retractable awning, so he's got to take the piece out and put a new piece in.
So it's not the entire awning?
No, it's about 1/4 of it. It's the one closest to the back door. I know you're familiar. Again, it's the northwest part of the awning.
Was that warranted at all? It's not an old awning. That's what caught my eye. It's only...
Well, it broke. It's under warranty, but what happened wasn't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I know someone else raised their hand, the administrative calendar. If you just give your name and address up at the mic, that'd be great.
Pearl Jacobs, Uniondale. Item number 13, can I have more specific information regarding the locations and the type of removals?
Fred?
I have it right here. Yeah.
Okay, well, okay. The commissioner from buildings coming up, Councilman D'Esposito has a list there.
It's authorizing the demolition and removal of 1-story masonry frame commercial building, 1-story metal building attached to masonry building, and 2-story wood frame structure and debris from premise. Said premise located on the northwest corner of Uniondale Avenue and Jerusalem Avenue, Section 34, Block 281, Lots 12, 13, and 87, aka 576 Uniondale Avenue.
That would total 5 locations, correct, or 5 properties?
Commissioner, is that correct? That is 5 distinct buildings, is that correct? Okay.
That's 5, correct? You believe so? Can I get more specifics, because I really need to know, because I keep calling into buildings, and I just want to publicly say that sanitation, very proactive and doing a great job, and buildings are, they're not as proactive, but they are responding to our issues. So I don't want to keep repeating issues to my building. So if you can give me more specific information.
That's specific to Uniondale.
We gave you the addresses. Anthony, you want to say them again?
Sure. It's going to be Section 34, Block 281, Lots 12, 13, and 87.
Okay. Can you give me addresses?
Sure, aka 576 Uniondale Avenue, Uniondale, New York.
Okay, and can I ask a question about that, 576 Uniondale Avenue? I know at the last meeting, Supervisor, you had postponed that issue as far as the proposed BP at that location, and that was not discussed here today?
Postponed, or was it a hearing? Which one are you talking about?
Talking about the 576. It was number 1 on the public hearings, and this is demolition at that 576 Uniondale Avenue. At the last meeting I was here, they were proposing a BP, and you had put that in on pause until today, which is June 15th.
What is she talking about? She's talking about something else. Yeah, but that had to do with something else in Roosevelt. Right. Which one is she speaking about?
Which one?
I'm speaking about the proposed development at 576 Uniondale Avenue.
Yeah, but they were going to come back and give like an update or something if they had some that they didn't. They're not here today.
Okay, I understand that, but can I ask a question? Why did you postpone that until today? I
think they were looking to come back to the next hearing, and I think today was like the next hearing.
Okay, are they still proposing that, property to be turned into a BP?
I think they are, but there's no decision on it.
Okay, because like I said, just for clarification purposes, at the last meeting, you, for whatever reason, you did not give a reason, you said that I'm going to postpone this until June 15th, and there was no reason given.
No, if I remember correctly, I think there were some questions. They were going to try and get some more answers or feedback for the next meeting. We didn't just say postpone for no reason.
I was at that meeting. And
No, I was too.
I was at that meeting. I didn't hear any outstanding questions. I did not hear any questions that needed to be addressed. So I just want to know if that build is still proposed. That's all I want to know. And maybe one of your commissioners or somebody can.
Sure, we'll have Freddie, the Commissioner of Buildings would be happy to follow up with you on that. Absolutely.
Okay, and I would need his email address, or he'll need mine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to be heard the administrative calendar? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the administrative calendar is entitled from 13. You didn't give me a chance to finish it.
Oh, sorry about that.
From 13 through 70.
Supervisor Clavin.
Second there? Okay.
Councilman Blakeman is the second. Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. But before we adjourn, Supervisor, I just want to make a correction to Ms. Pearl. The item 13 that you asked about, the specific addresses are the following: 3059 Driftwood Lane in Belmore, 1746 Dannett Place in East Meadow, 5 Sperry in East Rockaway, 94 Crown in Elmont, 2074 Hewlett Avenue in Merrick, 21 East Roosevelt Avenue in Roosevelt, 45 West Raymond Avenue in Roosevelt, 150 Pennywood Avenue in Roosevelt, 231 Elmwood Avenue in Roosevelt, 507 Maple in Uniondale, 683 Midwood in Uniondale, 717 Windsor in Uniondale, 942 Smith in Uniondale, 1008 Ditmas in Uniondale, and the rest were West Hempstead. That said, I make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Aye. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Okay. Now that the formal town board meeting is adjourned, the town board will remain to listen to residents' comments. Hold on for 1 second, please.
Okay, we will have a 10-minute recess, please.
Councilwoman, you want 10 minutes? 10 minute recess, please. Thank you all.